Hello everyone, today's lesson is going to be on docking and launching a dinghy. I'd first like to state our objective, and that is to dock and launch a dinghy safely and consistently in all wind directions and levels. I've divided this lesson into three parts: safety, launching, and docking. Safety we will talk about first because it applies to both launching and docking. There are three factors to consider when talking about safety. Those are speed, wind, and your boat path that you plan to take. These three factors allow you to calculate ahead when docking and launching, which is very important for safety, so there are no last-minute corrections and decisions. There is also a very other crucial point of safety, which are hazards. They are found in and around the dock, usually all the time, and you have to watch out for them. I'd like to do a brainstorming activity. Could we try and name as many hazards as possible, and I will list them here.
Other boats.
Other boats, yes, good.
Things floating in the water that shouldn't be there.
Yes, obstructions.
What about swimmers?
Swimmers, yes, people in the water. You want to watch out for them. You do not want to hit anyone. That could cause serious injury. We do not want that. Anything else?
Hitting bottom.
Hitting bottom, yes. You want to take care of your boat, and that includes the centerboard, which you do not want to hit against the bottom.
Current.
Current, yep. That, of course, affects your path and your plan. You must take current into account sometimes, as there can be close calls.
There's wildlife, but I guess that's kind of an obstruction.
Wildlife, yeah, that'll go under obstructions. Of course, obstructions cover things like logs and anything in the water, really. And other boats, make sure you consider all types of boats that could be going through the harbor.
What about buoys, like markers marking?
Obstructions.
Yeah, obstructions, anything in the water. I think that about covers it. That's a good list of obstructions. They're essentially things that could cause danger to you or people around you that you have to keep an eye out for. That just about covers safety. We'll now talk about launching. Before launching, there are things you must take into account. You need to have a launch path or a plan. This is usually the skipper's job because he's steering the boat. This allows for a lack of last-minute decisions. And I've listed 4 things here that you want to make sure you have checked before you launch to avoid any mistakes. Your centerboard or daggerboard, depending what type of boat you're on, you want to make sure it is down so your boat moves forward and straight. Your sail should be fully hoisted. Stopper knots in your lines. Without those, lines can slip through and that can be disaster. And lines in general, you want to make sure they are neat around your boat to avoid any accidents. These 4 things are things you should consider before launching because they can affect your launch. Now the launch procedure, the skipper, well, if you have a skipper and a crew, the skipper should be in the boat already, and the crew is the one that launches the boat. If you don't have a crew, then the skipper should still be in the boat, but will have to launch the boat himself. So he would control the mainsail and the tiller, so the boat is under control the moment it is launched. Of course, not full control, but control enough, and the crew should take his position as fast as possible. And the skipper, of course, as soon as you launch, the skipper should follow the plan or the path that you plan to take. Alright, so the path that you will want to take, of course, should avoid all hazards, which we talked about earlier, and should be away from the dock. Essentially, you don't want to cause confusion or accidents by steering through other boats in and around the dock. You want to get out as fast as possible, so to avoid any other accidents. Now, after launching, maintain sailing positions. This is essentially the crew who gets into his spot as fast as possible, or as soon as you launch. Essentially, you want to maintain your sailing position that you're most comfortable in, that you would sail in for full control, so you can follow through with your launch. And you must, of course, always remain alert for puffs and hazards, as those are also more factors that can affect your launch. That's the full launch procedure. If I were to draw a little diagram here of a standard T dock.
Where's the shore?
The shore is here,
Okay.
and this is your T dock. Your boat path should be, like I was saying earlier, should be away from the dock. So if you were launching from, let's say, around here, your path should not be just like the short, quick path through here and away. Because there could be other boats launching that could cause confusion or mess, and that would not be good. You want to sail away from the dock, then out and around, and continue on. So that is the launch. Docking, which is even harder than launching in most cases. There are three. I've broken it down into 3 steps. So first, the preparation. This is before you are approaching the dock. Things you have to be worrying about. So depower sails. By this I mean essentially let your sails out, depower them so they're not full with air and keeping you at full speed. Depowering sails will slow you down and essentially prepare you for your dock. Now, do not depower them entirely and lose all speed, because then you will just lose control. With no forward momentum, you have no steering, and that can be a disaster. So raise daggerboard and centerboard if necessary. I added this point because some docks, when the water levels are low, you can hit bottom, which is also not good. So you must take that into account and raise your centerboard or daggerboard if it's necessary, or if you're docking closer to land. That is key. And the last point I have here: prepare the painter. Not many people can often forget about this, and they dock the boat, and all of a sudden they have nothing to hold on to the boat, and it can be a bit of a mess. So just having a prepared painter ready for the crew to hold on to, or even the skipper who hops out of his own boat and realizes he has to grab onto the mast or something just to hold it. That's never good. Preparing the painter before you approach the dock is your best option. Now the approach. So this is the toughest part of docking. My first point is dock on the leeward side of the dock. So you do not want to dock on the windward side of the dock, because then the wind is essentially pushing your boat into the dock, which you don't want. You want the wind pulling your boat away from the dock, or maybe like sideways a little bit. That's okay, but you don't want it pushing your boat into the dock. This is if you have options. If you don't have options, say some clubs have less options when docking, and you just have to make do with what you have. But try and dock as leeward on the dock as possible. Alright, approach the dock on upwind point of sail. This allows for full control of speed, which is very, very crucial when you're docking. You want to be able to control your speed and slow down as you approach the dock, as opposed to docking on a downwind where you have very, very minimal control over your speed and essentially crash into the dock or pull a last minute jibe or something. You don't want that. You want to dock on upwind, so you can always just let the sail out and slow down according to the wind speed and boat speed. And the plan your approach ahead of time. Yeah, ahead of time. So that, of course, is probably implied. You want to know where you're going to dock. You want to know how you're going to get there. So this, of course, to avoid last minute changes, last minute decisions. You don't want that. You want the whole thing planned out to run as smoothly as possible. Now I'm going to run a few demonstrations here on docking to provide you with some demonstrations of what I mean by these 3 points. So docking on the leeward side. If we have this arrow, if this arrow represents the wind,
Where's the shore again?
The shore will be me here,
right, okay.
and this is the T dock.
Okay.
Yes. So if the wind were coming from this direction, you do not want to dock your boat on this side, because the wind is essentially, well, you'd have to come in like this, and the wind would be pushing you into the dock. And even when you do dock, it would be extremely awkward. That is just asking for disaster. What you want to come around the dock and dock on preferably the bottom of the T, essentially. Or if you have to, you can also dock on the side. But this approach would be the best, because as you're coming up here, obviously you can't sail directly into the wind, but you have full control over your speed. you can let your sails out, slow down, tack if you have to, and dock nice and slow, and the crew would catch the boat there. So that is the ideal approach. Of course, if the wind changes, say it's coming from here, then you have to adjust your plan of action. You would then be docking on either this side or this side and sailing probably like such, and again a nice slow dock, because you can see with the wind coming from here, you can easily let your sail out parallel with the wind and have no speed at all. This allows you to slow down as you approach the dock and have full control over the speed of the boat. Just remember the saying, never approach the dock faster than you are willing to hit it. Of course, don't be willing to hit the dock at all, but accidents do happen, and if you are going slow enough, then it should not be as severe as it could have been. And of course, one more example, if the wind were coming from here, then as you probably know by now, you dock on the end of the T nice and slow. You let your sails out as you approach, and going for a nice smooth docking. Alright, so now on to the procedure of the docking itself. It is required that you depower the sails completely and coast in. So this is different from depowering sails in the preparation. The preparation, you are slowing down, and you're still leaving some wind in the sails to keep moving so you have control. But this part of the docking, you are letting your sails out entirely right before you dock to slow your boat down and essentially coast right in gently to the dock. This can change depending on wind conditions. Say it's an extremely, extremely light day, you can essentially sail right in because you'll already be going far slow enough to dock. This also goes for if the wind is very, very strong, then you need to depower your sails early and account for your boat speed and the amount of time it takes for you to slow down. This is a judgment call that you have to make on the time of dock and on the time of your docking, and you only get better with practice. Now, I put a point here: avoid docking straight on. That is for very simple and obvious reasons. It is much harder to catch a boat from if you were to dock. If you were to dock straight on, it would be much harder to catch the boat on the very bow of the boat. If you dock on an angle, or even sometimes on the side, if you're single-handed, sometimes that's required. Docking on an angle allows the crew to catch the boat very easily, and yes, so that's a much safer approach. Crew catches the dock, or skipper if it's single-handed. Yeah, that I've already mentioned. The crew is the one to catch the dock. You want the skipper steering the boat for as long as possible. If it's double-handed, he should be steering the boat right in until he should be in complete control of the boat right until the point where you've docked and even tied off, because the crew can do all the docking. If you're single-handed, that's slightly different, but you should still maintain control for as long as possible. And finally, tie off. That is the final step of the docking. You just leave your boat enough room to move, but not so much that you need to keep it close to the dock, of course. So that concludes our lesson on docking and launching. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? As for docking, no?